Hello, people of the internet. This is Kaiju Noir, here back with another review. And of course, here with me, as usual, it's Pete.
I'm here! Yay!
And we are here to give you our thoughts on Thor the Dark World, the sequel to the first Thor movie, and is the second movie to come out, the second Marvel movie to come out after the Avengers. Now, before we go in, I just want to ask you, have you seen the first Thor movie?
I have not. I'm a little behind on the actual of Avenger movies.
For some reason, Thor ended up being the last Avengers film that I saw, and I saw that after I saw the Avengers, because I don't know, for some reason the first Thor movie never really appealed to me as much as, say, Iron Man or the Hulk.
The same goes for me, and the same goes for the movie Captain America, the Captain America movie. I just didn't feel like going out of my way to watch them. I love the Avengers. I thought it was a good movie, but I couldn't find myself just to find the time to watch those movies or to put myself in that mindset that I'm gonna watch the first Thor movie, the first Captain America movie.
See, the thing was with the other, maybe it's the fantasy element, or I don't know, because I consider myself a fan of fantasy. I mean, I can totally watch something like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter any day. But I guess the other movies that either had either it was the period piece setting of Captain America, or the sci-fi-ness of Iron Man and the Hulk. But yeah, it seemed like, I don't know, maybe it was like a personal taste for me. But again, we're here to talk about the sequel to Thor. So now here we are near the end of 2013, and we finally have our sequel, which we did get to see, and so here's the review. The movie takes place pretty much right after the Avengers, where Thor, he takes Loki back to Asgard, and Loki is pretty much sentenced to the dungeon for the rest of his days. So it is at this point where an evil dark elf by the name of Malachite, played by Christopher Eccleston, who most Doctor Who fans would know him as the Ninth Doctor, decides to pull off a grand scheme to go after this magical MacGuffin called the Ether, which just so happens to have implanted itself in the body of Thor's girlfriend, Jane Foster. So then Thor, as soon as he realizes that Jane is in danger, goes to Earth, picks up Jane, and brings her back to Asgard in order to protect her from Malachite and the evil Dark Elves. Because what Malachite plans to do is to use the Ether to plunge the entire universe into darkness. Also, but here's the twist: in order to defeat Malachite, Thor must rely on his brother Loki. And so now you have while you have this Save the Universe plot, you also have this subplot involving Thor's estranged relationship with his brother Loki. So in terms of story, what were your overall thoughts?
Going into the movie, I wasn't sure what I was gonna see. Especially one thing that kept ringing in my mind was, you haven't seen the first movie. You haven't seen the first movie. Where is this gonna pick up? How are you gonna enjoy this movie if you what parts, if I'm gonna get confused for things that bother me. For the most part, I followed the story pretty straightforward. There was nothing too crazy about it or too out of a line. It was just a superhero movie for me. Nothing out of the ordinary. I did like seeing Asgard. I don't know if that was included in the first movie, but just seeing it was incredible.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you there, where it's not a very complex story. There's not that many twists and turns. In fact, it's kind of predictable in a way, except for one character, which we will get into later. I feel this definitely feels like it picks up right after the Avengers film, because I saw the Avengers before I saw the first Thor movie, and what was great about the Avengers is that it pretty much told you everything you need to know about Thor and Loki. They're two brothers. They one is the superhero, one is the supervillain. The superhero is very really wants to believe in that there is still good in his brother so badly, and that unfortunately the brother is just angry at the world at this point.
And it's funny, throughout the movie, Loki makes it try to make a point for people to feel bad for him, or for people to to side with him. He's always going to saying, it's his father who pushed him this far to want to become a king, who wanted him to rule, and that's why he did what he did. And it's funny, there's 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 even scenes where like they almost make like Thor sound like the bad guy. Like, oh yes, Thor, your brother is gonna be the king, not you. Ha ha ha. I feel like that's something that just stood out for me. It's almost like trying to make Thor sound like the bad guy of the situation.
Yeah, what I really love about Loki is that throughout all these movies, he is really made out to be a sympathetic villain, someone we care about, and which is probably why so many fans love Loki. I mean, during before this movie came out, I read reports that they actually, after they finished filming the movie, they went back and filmed more stuff with Loki in it because he was that popular.
Yeah, the popularity of Loki has gone pretty crazy. I've heard stories of people just like demanding Loki be in the next Avengers movie, demanding that Loki stays alive. That's things that I've kept hearing just as time's gone by.
Good thing the writer of Game of Thrones didn't work on these movies.
That's true.
In terms of the conflict, what were your thoughts on the villain Malekith?
The villain. I wanted to ask you about that. If the villains at any point in time were ever mentioned in the original movie or in the first movie.
No, not at all. I mean, this was just a character that was brought up, and of course, as you saw, at the very beginning of the movie, they have that generic flashback that a lot of films seem to do recently, where long ago there was an evil person who used an evil MacGuffin,
Star Trek 2.
or or TMNT movie, or the Hellboy 2. Although I liked Hellboy 2 because at least it was kind of very artistic looking. I think Priest also did that. It's always that thing where it's long ago.
Oh yeah, that we never mention, that no one ever talks about because it's been lost and forgotten. I mean, it has been 5,000 years.
And I think one of the Transformers movies also did that. Well, I thought that in terms of villains, Malekith just seemed a bit generic, really.
He just wants to rule the world.
Yeah.
Not even rule the world. He just wants to like take the world back into darkness.
Yeah, but I don't know. It seemed like something very generic kind of thing to do. I mean, if he had more presence, I mean, if you had something like Chernobog from Fantasia, where you have this big demonic looking creature with this. If you saw him and you heard that he wants to plunge the world in darkness, you would believe
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This character, this random character that we're picking, he is built up as this like magnificent and powerful character, and you can get behind that, even though this character says or does very little. But with Malekith, I don't know. There's not really a lot there to say, yes, this is a villain I totally can get behind.
The only plus thing is, for me, they did get the picture or like the design of a dark elf for them. They're considered dark elves, and I kind of do actually like the design. They do look like what a dark elf would look like in my mind. But like you said, they don't bring much presence. I do like the battle techniques that they have, or like how they can sacrifice part of themselves and to eventually die, but for a while to have like extreme strength, extreme power. I did like that. I thought that was a kind of cool like concept or kind of cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just the design and how they would like transform, like it'd be like glowing with orange power. It'd be really cool. I really like that part. But other than that, nothing really stood out.
I noticed that I mentioned before Hellboy 2, and whenever I saw Malekith, I kept thinking back to the villain from Hellboy 2.
I know what you're talking about.
Who is also an elf of some kind.
Pale.
Very pale, pointy-eared, and he wants to bring the world back to what it was before. Only this time he wants to bring the world back to the magical creatures as opposed to humans, but...
All for honor!
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I like... The villain from Hellboy 2 even though he's very similar, I liked him more than Malekith here. There just wasn't enough to him there.
Yeah, what did you think about his lackeys, his comrades?
Yeah, I liked his lackeys. Like you mentioned before, I like how they have that aspect of them where they're willing to sacrifice their quote unquote their being. I was about to say humanity, but they're not humans, but you know what I mean.
I will say this: seeing so many of like the dark elves, they were wearing these weird masks. For some reason, in my mind, I was like, like, am I watching something out of Power Rangers? It felt kind of
Oh, yeah,
kind of cartoony.
Yeah, they do kind of with those masks. Or their costumes. They do look like the minions that the Power Rangers would
Right?
fight.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed that. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. They wear a mask and a black or gray jumpsuit. You
Yeah.
know, dude, you know what'd be funny if we saw like the dark elves versus the Putty Patrol.
Oh my god.
That'd be awesome. If someone out there can draw that, that'd be cool. And in terms of the protagonists, what did you thought of them?
They were okay. They were okay. Like, again, with Thor, I've never been too crazy on Thor or his like in his previous adventures or like the comics, the stories. And in this one, Thor, he just seems like an upbeat guy. Doing out what's right, doing what he needs to do. But just nothing really stands out to him or his character.
I really like the Asgardian protagonists. I really like Thor. I mean, he's a character that's a character, I can totally get behind. He's awesome. He's badass. He's, one swing of that hammer, boom! I love Loki. He steals the show, 100%.
Just whenever you see him on screen, you see that smirk he has, or even when he's at his lowest, he just seems like so capturing.
Yes, he has that such charm and charisma.
And it all comes from like just how pathetic he can be. That's the worst part. And everyone loves him for that.
Yes.
Everyone.
Oh, Loki, I can't stay mad at you.
Even Thor's like that.
Yeah. You can tell, sometimes like Thor, like those few times where Thor would crack a smile and as a response to one of Loki's quips, he's like, "That's my Loki."
Now now we should talk about the laughter and stuff like that. You mentioned that you felt like the film had too much comedy or too much of a comedy aspect.
Right. Because I went in the last Sons of Serizawa podcast. My friend David, aka Gorizard, he mentioned how he knows that a lot of these post-Avengers films try to play up on the comedy. I didn't really see that with Iron Man 3, mostly because Iron Man himself tended to be a comedic character. But I after I had David's words in the back of my head while I was watching Thor: The Dark World, and I really did notice that there was a strong emphasis of comedy, and I thought that it did not really needed to be there, mostly from Jane Foster's friends. I feel like you can completely remove them from the story.
I definitely see what you're getting at. I remember those scenes.
Especially, what's her name, Darcy?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate her.
And the intern of the intern.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty pointless.
Yeah, there was no use to those characters.
And especially during the climax, you saw Darcy and her quote-unquote intern throughout the battle, and it really breaks up. You would have this badass imagery of
Just slows it all down.
Yeah, you have this really cool concept for a final fight, and they played it up for laughs because they would always cut back to those two characters, avoiding all those big stuff that's happening around them.
That is true. That really was a really cool final fight. I don't think I've seen like a fight where like a scenario like that is being played out. I don't want to say too much about it.
Yeah, it's very creative. Very creative.